Hello and welcome back to the UnusualCyber YouTube channel. Today we're going to be attempting to crack the DC-4 box from Vulnhub. Let's get started. I have my Kali Linux VM here as well as our DC-4 box, and I've made sure that they are on the same network. Again, all links to these as well as our other DC videos will be left below. We know nothing about this DC-4 box apart from its existence, so we're going to have to start with the netdiscover command to try and find its IP address. This works by sending ARP requests to all possible IP numbers to try and discover all active hosts on the network. It has returned quite a few machines, and I recognise all of these but the .141 and the .140. To try and find some more information, I'm going to do a basic nmap, just enough to tell me what these machines are. I can see that the 141 address is a virtual Oracle box, so this is DC-4. Now I'm going to go and do a deeper nmap scan. I'm going to add the -sv argument to see what services are running on the open ports. I'm going to define all open ports by the -p1 to 65535 argument, because by default nmap will only scan the top 1000. And I'm going to add the -O command to try and find out which operating system it's running. I did forget to add the -T5 argument here, but it returned pretty quickly anyway. If this wasn't a hack the box challenge, I would reduce this to about T2, just to not get flagged by the firewall. From this nmap we can see that port 22 is running OpenSSH and port 80 is running Nginx. I'm going to first go to the exploit database to check for any vulnerabilities within this version of Nginx, and I could use Metasploit 2. But that doesn't return anything, so I'm just going to go and browse to the website. The website appears to just be a login page. It doesn't seem to flag up with invalid users, and it doesn't seem to have any limited logon attempts, so we could do a brute force password attack on this page. But before that, I'm going to do a more in-depth website scan to try and search for any hidden files and directories and any out-of-date themes or plugins. I'm going to use Nitco as my web scanner, but I have used Arachne as well. I'm going to define the host as just the URL and see if that returns anything interesting. Nothing immediately sticks out. These header notifications seem to be quite common. I've seen them pop up in a few Nitco scans. I wouldn't really say these are vulnerabilities as such, more that the security could be improved further if these headers were set. If I don't find another way, we could come back to these later. I'm now going to use Deerbuster to find some hidden directories, and I've also used wfuzz for this too. Kali Linux comes with a Deerbuster directory in the user share word lists directory, so I'm going to select one of those as a directory list. DC-4 is made to be hacked, so I'm going to increase the threads from 10 to 20 just to speed things up a bit, because these scans can take a bit of time. Instantly it picks up some PHP scripts, a login PHP, an index PHP and a logout PHP. I'm going to leave this running in the background as we set up the password attack. For the password attack, I'm going to use Hydra. I've heard great things about Burp Suite, but I don't want to be limited by the community edition, and I tend to prefer command line tools anyway. I find Hydra a bit confusing when it comes to writing out the commands, but after a while you do get used to it. We are going to assume that admin is a valid user. If not, we could attempt some other default credentials. We are going to -L to list a single username, capital -P for a password list, which will use the go-to-rocku file in the user share word list directory, and then the target machine's IP, ignore my phone, which is 192.168.1 and 141. You can see here I forgot to word the command correctly, so I'm going to amend the last command. We need to define the service, and since we're testing passwords, we are going to be using post requests rather than get requests. We are also using the login.php script, which we found through our Deerbuster scan. And the form fields in the websites are username and password, so we are going to put those in like so. Next, we need a success or fail parameter, and we assume that if we do get a successful login, somewhere in that page will be a logout button, so I'm going to use the success parameter as logout, and I'm going to start the scan. It took a while to come back, but it cracked a password, which is admin and happy. So let's log in. Now that we've logged in, we see that we have a command set up here. And if we list the processes, we can see some of the files that come to us by Dearbust. We have an ls command here, but we really want someone to properly look around and get some information. We will inspect the element and go to the network tab. Here we can see requests in more detail, including their codes. If we press the ls button, we can click on this request to see more about it. We can edit the lsal command to list the etc password directory, where we find 3 users, Jim, Sam and Charles. So now I'm going to have a look at their home directories. Jim has a mailbox and a backup folder, but Sam and Charles don't seem to have anything interesting. There's nothing in Jim's mailbox, but in the backup folder we find a list of old passwords. DC-4 isn't very realistic, as I can't see someone keeping a list of old passwords, at least unencrypted. I think the aim is to try and teach you to troubleshoot and get used to the intrusion methods. It is really fun though. So we have found 3 usernames, Charles, Jim and Sam, and we have found a big list of old passwords. We can try and do an SSH brute force with these credentials in the hopes that one of these users has recycled an old password. I'm going to make 2 text files in the user share word list directory using Vi. I'm learning Vi and there is so much to remember. We create 1 list of the passwords and 1 list of the users. And we're going to use Hydra again, but this time we'll use a capital L as we're using a list rather than a single username. And our service this time is SSH. Jim has recycled an old password, so let's log into SSH. We are greeted by this "you have mail" notification, and we also find a test document as well. Looking at these, we can't really see anything helpful, but it does hint that there is a mailbox. So we're going to have a look at the bar directory and we find it in there. We also find an email from Charles listing his password, so it's hinting that we should try and switch user again. We have now switched user to Charles, and the first thing I tend to look for in privilege escalation is which programs we can run with root privilege. We do a sudo -l, and that tells us that Charles can use a program called he as root, which is an adapted version of T. I'm having a look at the T help page, and it looks like T is a file editor. The thing that shoots out here is the append version, because if we can add a new line to some of the root files such as the sudoers list or the shadow file or the password file, then we can either add new users with root privilege, or we can maybe change some existing users' privilege. I'm going to first find out how to use the T command by just a quick Google search. Going to add in a user called Lemon with no password, and I'm going to give it the user ID 0, because if you add a user with the user ID 0, that instantly is read as root. Oh, I need to echo it so that it inserts that as standard output. And then I'm going to cat that file, and yes, you can see Lemon is added at the bottom. So now I'm going to try and switch user to Lemon. And yep, we have been given a shell, as you can see, and if I use the who am I command, it tells me that we are root, which means we were successful. So now the only thing left to do is try and find the final flag, which turns out was in the root directory. But it means that we have now gained root access to a machine that we knew was on our network, but did not know the IP, did not know its operating system, And that was it. Hopefully in the next few weeks I'll get a better setup and audio sorted. But I hope you liked this video and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye!